All right, so get this, listeners. We are diving deep into Vulcan today, but not just any old trip to pointy-eared land. You're actually
Yeah.
getting a sneak peek into, well, their dictionary.
Yeah. It's a total gold mine, honestly. We can decode how Vulcans see the world, one word at a time.
Yeah, and I flicked through it earlier,
Yeah.
and it's not just dry definitions. It's like Vulcan secrets, just
Yeah.
hiding in plain sight, like
Did you know?
that they have a word for cough that's super detailed. It even like lists symptoms. It's Ilir.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's almost clinical, isn't it?
That's right.
Very Vulcan, and it goes way beyond coughing. They've got bake for rib, duvenek terceic for tendons. Think of any body part. They've probably got a precise term for it.
So instead of saying my tummy hurts, a Vulcan would be all discomfort in the gastrointestinal region.
Right. No drama.
Just facts.
Just facts.
And that makes sense when you think about their whole logic thing. No need to get all flowery with language when describing,
Yeah.
a tear duct. It's just bizunim masu kinefek to them. Wow. Is that even pronounceable?
Right.
Seriously, it's like their language. Avoids all the emotional baggage we humans pack into words.
Oh, totally. Think about it. Nenkafnala is their word for a blood cell. Even something as basic as that has a specific emotionless term, askafmev for vein, tvikhanbu for fetus. It's all very matter of fact.
Oh my gosh, it's making me rethink how I complain about a stubbed toe. But okay, enough anatomy. What else is lurking in this Vulcan dictionary?
Well, you know me. I'm all about the juicy cultural stuff, and this dictionary delivers. They have an entry for chal, which is basically their version of kale, a purple leafy plant they consider a delicacy.
Hold on. Vulcans have a thing for purple kale. This just got interesting. Does the dictionary, does it say how they prepare it, maybe with the side of lodging sauce?
Huh. No mention of recipes, sadly. But even that one entry tells us so much. They're clearly an agricultural society with specific tastes, maybe even rituals around food. It's fascinating.
Okay, this focus on detail goes way beyond kale. They even have a word for their coming-of-age ritual. It's kaswan. Talk about intent adolescence.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, there's Kavlar, a board game. With 19 by 19 lines, it makes you wonder, do Vulcans trash talk? During game night? The dictionary doesn't say.
I'm picturing Spock playing that with a totally straight face, but like secretly plotting his next move.
Right.
Right.
Oh, this is good. And who could forget? Min sakit urseve. Their iconic live long and prosper. Even their greetings are about longevity and success.
Yeah, look. This is where things get really intriguing. There's the word
Sen?
set that describes a mental discipline. For
Like deconstructing emotions.
they have a system for outlogicking their feelings.
It's a relatively new practice, even for them. But it shows this constant Vulcan struggle to master their emotions. They're not just born stoic robots. It takes work, a lot of work.
Whoa. I mean, I try to keep my cool in traffic, but this is next level. And of course, you can't forget the ta or ta. Their famous hand salute.
Well, right. You wouldn't expect to find that in a dictionary. It just shows you how much their language reflects their values, logic, self-control, tradition. It's all baked into their words.
My mind is officially blown. This dictionary is like a secret decoder ring for understanding Vulcans. But wait, there's more, right? Tell me we're going deeper into this rabbit hole.
Oh, we're just getting started. Buckle up, because the dictionary, it also takes us on a tour of Vulcan tech. And let me tell you, it's impressive.
Okay, spill the beans. What kind of futuristic gadgets are we talking about? Does this dictionary come with blueprints?
Not quite blueprints, but it does have some serious Starfleet vibes. For example, they have a word, Cudban Thorshan, for what they call an isokinetic cannon.
Isokinetic what now? Okay,
Yeah.
You're going to have to break that down for us, for us non-Vulcan scientists.
Okay, think of it like a superpowered gun that delivers a constant force, no matter the distance, basically. It packs a serious punch. And then there's Falkershock Kutfowain, which translates to ablative hull armor.
Ablative hull armor. That sounds intense, even for a dictionary definition.
It is. It's a type of armor that's designed to vaporize when hit, essentially sacrificing itself to protect the ship or structure underneath. Pretty clever, right?
So, even peace-loving Vulcans know how to bring the heat when they need to. It makes you wonder what kind of conflicts they're involved in before embracing logic and diplomacy.
Right. There's a whole history there we only get glimpses of. But it's not all weapons and defense. Their dictionary also reveals they were ahead of the game when it comes to space travel.
Did you find anything about warp drive? Because that would be the ultimate Vulcan flex.
No mention of warp drive specifically.
Yeah.
There are terms like Volunkruisjettrek, which is their word for ion drive. It's a type of propulsion system that uses electrically charged atoms to create thrust.
So basically, they were zipping around space long before warp technology came along. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And remember turbolifts, those super fast elevators that whisk you around starships? Well, they have a specific word for that. Seshan Saadek.
I knew it. They think of everything. I bet they even have a word for that feeling you get when the turbo lift suddenly stops.
Probably. And speaking of thinking of everything, they even have a term for an auxiliary control room, like an emergency bridge. It's Kavath Tash Svitan. They're always prepared for any situation.
You know, it's kind of humbling to think about how advanced their technology is, even compared to what we have today.
It is.
Yeah.
And if you look closely, a lot of their tech terms revolve around energy manipulation and control. They've clearly mastered physics in a way we're still trying to wrap our heads around.
It's almost like they're playing a different game entirely, and we're still stuck on level 1.
Maybe so. But hey, even Vulcans have to start somewhere. Ready to move on to something a little less technical.
Lead the way. My brain could use a break from all this futuristic tech talk. What else have you got?
Yeah, so we've covered their bodies, their culture, their tech. Now it's time to dive into the deepest part of Vulcan life, their philosophy and spirituality.
Ooh, now this is where it gets really interesting because from what I've seen so far, Vulcans don't exactly strike me as the touchy-feely type.
You're right, they're not. But even Vulcans have a spiritual side, even if it's expressed through logic.
Eh?
And self-control, for example, they have a word, Direth, which is the name of a Vulcan monastery.
A monastery. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What do Vulcans do at a monastery? Meditate on the laws of physics.
Maybe. But the word Direth, it actually translates to the place of healing souls. So clearly there's a deeper meaning there.
Healing souls. But even Vulcans believe in something. Beyond the physical world, I guess you can suppress your emotions. But you can't escape the big questions about life and existence.
Exactly. And their dictionary, it hints at a complex system of beliefs and practices. They have a word, axpra, for heretic or unorthodoxy.
Hold on. Are you telling me Vulcans have a word for being a jerk? That changes things. I thought they were all about logic and serenity.
Well, serenity is definitely a key concept for them. They even have a word for it, mogkom. Perhaps their pursuit of emotional control is ultimately a path to inner peace.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's not all about inner peace.
Yeah.
And quiet contemplation. They also have a word, vrikasht, for exile or outcast,
Right.
which suggests there are consequences for those who stray too far from Vulcan norms.
Right. There's definitely a strictness to Vulcan society. But even in exile, they maintain a connection to their heritage. Remember Vrikatra, the ritual vessel for containing Katra.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the first words that really stood out to me. It's a powerful concept, isn't it?
It is. It shows that, even in death, Vulcans are not forgotten. Their essence, their Katra, is preserved and honored, and it reminds the living of the deep connection between family and ancestors.
Wow. That's beautiful. It makes you think about how much we can learn from other cultures, even those as seemingly different as the Vulcan.
Absolutely. Exploring their language gives us a unique glimpse into their values, beliefs, and ways of seeing the world.
So, what does this all mean for us as non-Vulcans? Engaging with their language.
It means we have a chance to expand our own understanding of the universe, to challenge our assumptions, and to appreciate the diversity of thought and experience that exists out there.
I know I've learned a lot from this deep dive, and I bet our listeners have too. If you could invent a Vulcan word, what concept would it represent, and why? That's something to ponder as we wrap up our exploration of the fascinating world of Vulcan language. Live long and prosper, everyone. So we've delved into Vulcan anatomy, explored their culture and technology. But what about, the deeper stuff, like their philosophy?
Ah, yes. The Vulcan mind, always a fascinating puzzle. And, this dictionary gives us some intriguing clues.
Right. Because when you think about it, Vulcans aren't exactly known for being like...
Uber spiritual.
Their spirituality is definitely unique.
Yeah.
They have this word, dirith.
The rest.
Yes, it's the name of a Vulcan monastery.
Their monastery. Okay, now I'm curious. What do Vulcans even do at a monastery? Well, the word direth, it translates to the place of healing souls.
The place of healing souls.
So...
Even Vulcans have a concept
Mhm.
of the soul.
It seems so.
Yeah.
And it suggests that even with all their logic, they still grapple with questions of, the self and
Yeah.
and the afterlife.
It's like you can suppress emotions, but you can't escape
Mm.
these bigger existential questions.
Exactly.
Okay. So what else does the dictionary tell us about Vulcan philosophy?
Well, there's this word, axbra. It means heretic or unorthodox.
Heretic. So there are Vulcans who break the rules.
Yet, even in a society that values logic above all else, there's still room
Like
for disagreement,
too.
for
Alright.
different interpretations.
Fascinating. But
Considered as
if they're heretics, that means there must be some kind of
Well-
Vulcan dogma.
And that leads us to another word, mulcum.
Molcum.
It means
Serenity.
inner
Like-
peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Vulcan logic is ultimately about achieving a state of mulcum, this.
Inner peace.
It's a possibility.
Okay. So we've got heretics, we've got serenity. Is there anything else that stands out in terms of Vulcan philosophy?
Well, there is one more word I think is worth mentioning. It's vrikasht.
Vrikasht.
Vrikasht. It means exile or outcast.
Exile. So even Vulcans have a concept.
Of banishment.
It appears so.
Wow. That's pretty intense.
It is. But
Well, yeah.
it also shows that Vulcan society,
Right.
while valuing logic, also has a strong sense of
Oh.
community and
And belonging.
even in their rejection
Yeah.
of emotional extremes, they still acknowledge
They
the
feel it, yeah.
importance of social bonds.
Precisely.
It's amazing how much we can learn about a culture just
Yeah.
by exploring its
And
language
absolutely. Language is a window.
into
People's soul.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into Vulcan. We've covered their anatomy, their culture, their technology, and their philosophy, all through the lens of their fascinating language. And I have to say, I'm leaving this deep dive, the newfound appreciation for the Vulcans and their unique way of seeing the world. So, to all our listeners out there, live long and prosper.